funny how people throughout history have always had this like fascination with the unknown.
Oh, absolutely.
Like from the Minotaur to the Golem, these
Yeah.
mythical creatures, they grab our attention.
They really do.
And it seems that fascination is still going strong today, even in like 2025 California,
Right?
where a recent news story has really blown up online. Could Bigfoot become the official state cryptid?
It's certainly a unique idea.
It is. It is. Now, we've got a ton of articles and comments about this from Slashdot, and I gotta say some of them are pretty wild.
Oh, I bet.
But before we dive into all that, let's maybe break down what's actually happening here.
Okay.
So for anyone who might not know, a cryptid, as one Slashdot user put it, is basically any creature whose existence hasn't been scientifically proven.
Exactly like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, those
Man.
kinds of enigmas.
Right, right. And this isn't just some internet meme or anything. Assembly Bill 666, introduced by Assemblymember Chris Rogers, is an actual piece of legislation being considered in California.
And Assemblymember Rogers just so happens to represent a bunch of counties in Northern California that are known as like the Bigfoot epicenter.
The Bigfoot epicenter.
Yeah, like Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, Sonoma, Trinity. These places are like steeped in Bigfoot lore.
Okay, so we've got Bill 666 and the Bigfoot epicenter. This is starting to sound like an X-Files episode.
Yeah, there's definitely like a sense of the uncanny here.
There is.
But to be clear, this bill is still in its very early stages. It's been read aloud and given to committee members, but it's got a long way to go to become law.
Oh, so there's still a lot that needs to happen.
Yeah, it needs to pass both the Assembly and the Senate and then get signed by the governor.
Oh, wow. So a long road ahead.
Definitely.
But even getting this far is pretty amazing. And of course, we can't talk about Bigfoot without mentioning Matt Moneymaker, the Finding Bigfoot guy.
Of course.
Apparently, he's so excited about this bill that he's ready to be right there in Sacramento for the vote.
It really shows how deeply Bigfoot is embedded in pop culture.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of reactions, let's jump into what people are saying online, because the Slashdot comments section is a goldmine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's humor, skepticism, genuine interest. It's all there.
That sounds about right.
Oh, yeah. Some of these comments are pure gold. Like one person compared Matt Gaetz to a cryptid, which honestly I can kind of see. Then there's a conspiracy theory going around that this is actually a placeholder bill, like a tactic to introduce something insignificant that later gets replaced with something way more substantial.
Wow.
And my personal favorite, someone suggested that Bigfoot finally got recognized because he forgot to wear his sunglasses.
That's great.
Right. But beyond all the jokes, there are some serious points being made too.
Like what?
Well, one big concern is that this is all a waste of time and resources, especially with all the other challenges California is facing.
Yeah, I can see that point of view.
Right. But then again, another commenter argued that it's just a harmless bit of fun, and we could all use a little more of that these days.
That's true, too.
It is.
And, that actually brings up an interesting question. Could officially recognizing Bigfoot actually be a smart move for tourism?
Oh, that's a great point. Think about other states that have, quirky attractions that have become huge tourist spots.
Right.
Could Bigfoot become like a brand for California, bringing in enthusiasts and boosting revenue for those Bigfoot epicenter counties?
It's an unconventional approach, but that might be what makes it so interesting.
It's like you've got the Golden Gate Bridge, you've got the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and then Bigfoot.
It's definitely unique.
It is. And this is where things get even more interesting.
How so?
One Slashdot user was wondering about Bigfoot's identity in a modern California context, his gender, his pronouns. It's a lighthearted comment, but it does touch on some bigger conversations that are happening in society right now.
It does.
It's crazy how a topic like Bigfoot can spark those kinds of discussions. But maybe that's what makes it so fascinating. It forces us to confront our assumptions and, consider different perspectives, even about a creature that might not even exist.
That's the beauty of exploring the unknown, It challenges our perceptions and pushes us to think outside the box.
So what do you think about the whole waste of time argument? Do you think it's frivolous, or is there more to it than meets the eye?
That's a tough one. On the surface, yeah, it might seem kind of trivial. But if you look deeper, you start to see how it connects with things like cultural identity, tourism, even the legislative process itself.
It's true. And, maybe in a world that can feel so predictable and controlled, there's something refreshing about embracing the possibility of something extraordinary, something unknown.
I agree.
It's exciting.
It is. And that's where we're going to explore more as we continue our deep dive into this story, we'll be taking a closer look at things like the potential impact on tourism, the arguments for and against the bill, and those deeper questions it raises about our relationship with the unknown.
This is where it gets really good, folks, so stick with us because we're just getting started. So we've talked about how recognizing Bigfoot could boost tourism, but one Slashdot user brought up a really interesting point.
What's that?
They said, if they're serious about making Bigfoot a state symbol, shouldn't there be some investment in, like, research and conservation?
That's a good point.
Right. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a really thought-provoking idea. I mean, if we're talking about recognizing Bigfoot as a real creature,
Yeah.
it makes sense that we would want to learn more about it and, protect its habitat.
Exactly, because right now it's all just speculation and folklore.
Right.
But if Bigfoot was officially recognized, wouldn't that open up opportunities for, like, actual scientific study?
It definitely could, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine dedicated research funding to study Bigfoot sightings, to analyze footprints, maybe even do DNA testing on hair samples.
That would be amazing. And think about the impact on conservation efforts. If Bigfoot's real, it probably needs a certain type of habitat to survive.
Right.
Officially recognizing it could lead to protecting those areas.
Exactly. It could completely change conservation in California. We could see the creation of Bigfoot sanctuaries, similar to how we protect endangered species like the California condor.
Wow, wouldn't that be something? A creature that was once just a myth or a legend suddenly becoming a symbol of environmental conservation.
It would be a powerful statement about how our relationship with nature is changing. And it would also fit with California's reputation as a leader in environmental protection.
It would. Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second.
Okay.
Some people are saying this whole thing is just a distraction.
Yeah.
A waste of taxpayer money. How would you respond to that?
Well, I get where they're coming from. I mean, California's got a lot of serious problems to deal with.
Right.
And this might seem kind of frivolous to some people. But I think we need to remember the potential benefits, not just for tourism, but also for science.
Yeah, and haven't there been other state symbols that seemed kind of quirky at first, but turned out to be really valuable?
Oh, absolutely. Take the Texas horned lizard, for instance.
No.
It might seem like a strange choice for a state reptile, but it's become this symbol of Texas pride and a focus for conservation efforts.
That's a great example. So maybe we shouldn't be so quick to dismiss Bigfoot's potential to do the same for California.
I agree.
Speaking of quirky ideas, remember that Slashdot comment about Bigfoot forgetting his sunglasses?
Oh, yeah.
It's funny, but it also makes you think about how we see these creatures.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Why do we always imagine Bigfoot hiding in the shadows? Maybe he just wants to be left alone.
Yeah. Maybe he's just a shy guy who likes taking walks in the woods.
Right. And maybe he's not as scary as we think. Maybe he's even kind of cuddly.
Uh-huh. Okay, maybe not cuddly. But I like where you're going with this. We're so quick to judge based on appearances, but what if there's more to Bigfoot than we realize?
That's what I love about the unknown. It lets us question what we think we know and consider different possibilities.
And that whole debate about Bigfoot's gender and pronouns, it just shows how this seemingly simple story can bring up these deeper conversations.
Yeah, it really does. It shows how our understanding of identity is always evolving. Even mythical creatures are part of that.
It's almost like Bigfoot is this blank canvas where we can project our own anxieties, our hopes, our values.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bigfoot becomes a reflection of ourselves, a mirror to our own culture.
So beyond the tourism and the science, maybe this whole Bigfoot thing is really about us. What does it say about our need to believe in something beyond the ordinary, something magical and mysterious?
That's a great question. I think it speaks to our sense of wonder, our desire to believe that there's still something out there that we haven't figured out yet.
In a world that can feel so disappointing and predictable sometimes, maybe Bigfoot represents a little bit of hope, a reminder that there's still magic out there.
And even if we never find proof that he exists, the possibility, the mystery is enough to keep that wonder alive.
It's amazing how a news story about a state symbol can lead to these big questions about human nature and our place in the universe.
I know, right? It just shows that sometimes the most unexpected things can start the most meaningful conversations.
And that's what we're all about here on The Deep Dive, isn't it? Taking a simple topic and exploring it in depth, looking at all the different angles and finding those hidden insights.
Exactly. Because sometimes it's in those unexpected conversations that we make the most surprising and valuable discoveries.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential for tourism, the implications for science and conservation, and the deeper cultural significance of Bigfoot. But let's get back to the bill itself. What do you think the chances are that it actually becomes law?
Well, as we said earlier, it's still early in the process.
Right.
It's got to go through a lot of steps,
Mm.
and it's impossible to say for sure what will happen.
But even if it doesn't pass, hasn't this whole debate already achieved something important?
Absolutely. It sparked a national conversation about Bigfoot, about our fascination with the unknown, and about the power of symbols to bring us together or divide us.
And maybe it's made us all a little bit more curious about the world around us, a little bit more open to the possibility of something extraordinary?
I think so.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing in itself.
Okay, so we've talked about what could happen if this bill actually passes.
Right.
But what if we take it a step further? Like, what if Bigfoot was actually officially recognized? What would that even look like?
That's an interesting question to think about. Would it just be symbolic, or would things actually change?
Yeah, would we start seeing Bigfoot crossing signs on the highways?
Hmm.
Or, like, Bigfoot warning labels on hiking trails?
Maybe. Or imagine like public awareness campaigns teaching people how to live alongside this creature.
Yeah.
If it's really out there and wants to be left alone.
And what about the legal stuff? Would Bigfoot have the same rights as other endangered species? Could you imagine, like, Bigfoot rights activists lobbying for more habitat protection?
It's not as crazy as it sounds. We've already seen similar movements for other animals, challenging the laws and pushing for animal rights.
It's true. And think about the scientists. Wouldn't this be huge for them? A chance to finally study this creature that's been a mystery for so long.
Oh, absolutely. It would change everything we know about primate biology, evolution, maybe even human origins. Who knows what secrets Bigfoot's DNA could hold?
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about.
Yeah.
And it's not just scientists who would be interested. Think about the cultural impact Bigfoot would go from being this fringe thing to a mainstream icon.
Yeah, we might see a wave of Bigfoot movies, TV shows, books, even video games. Bigfoot could become as famous as Mickey Mouse.
And what about the tourism industry? Those Bigfoot epicenter counties would probably become huge tourist attractions, bringing in people from all over the world.
Imagine Bigfoot safaris, guided tours through the redwoods, maybe even Bigfoot-themed amusement parks.
Okay, maybe amusement parks is a bit much. But you get the idea. Officially recognizing Bigfoot would have a huge impact on everything from science and law to pop culture and the economy.
And it would force us to really think about our relationship with nature and the creatures we share the planet with.
This whole deep dive has been quite a journey, hasn't it? We started with a news story about a state symbol, and now we're talking about some pretty big ideas.
It is amazing how a simple topic can lead to such complex and thought-provoking discussions.
That's what makes it so fun, right? Being willing to explore, to question things, and to be open to the unknown.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this episode, we'll leave you with this thought. Whether or not Bigfoot is ever officially recognized, the fact that we're even having this conversation says a lot about how much we're fascinated by the mysteries of the world.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll finally know the truth about Bigfoot.
Until then, let's keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep that sense of wonder alive.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration into the depths of knowledge and curiosity.